So today I'm going to tell you about the importance of conviction versus perfection and why fluent energy always wins. The most common misconception that I found is that most international closers, they actually believe that they need a perfect English, perfect accent, and perfect grammar to succeed. But what I can tell you is that the highest earning closers often have imperfect English but succeed because of their energy, their passion, and their belief in their voice. Remember that conviction beats perfection every single time. Focusing on flawless grammar and pronunciation leads to underperformance. If you keep doing that, you're going to keep sounding robotic, freeze up, and get paralyzed because of the fear of making mistakes. Now, the reason why trying to sound perfect always fails is that the brain actually works so hard to monitor language and avoid errors that it can actually focus on the actual conversation or connect with the prospects. Another reason is that listeners rate speakers who prioritize grammar accuracy over emotional expression as less trustworthy. The thing is, minor language errors, when paired with genuine emotion, actually increase perceived authenticity. The point here is that your perfectionism actually limits your emotional range. So the fear of making mistakes causes speakers to use a flat, safe, and boring tone which fails to create emotional response in the prospects. Now, I want you to think of this as if humans had a built-in lie detector. Humans have evolved a subconscious ability to detect fake emotions and low conviction in a speaker's voice within milliseconds, long before the words are processed. When you focus on perfect grammar, your voice becomes more monotone and your pace becomes more mechanical and your emotional range shrinks. Now, this vocal pattern actually signals to the prospect's brain that you are rehearsed and insincere. Genuine passion in your voice actually makes the prospects feel like you really care about what they're talking about, so you really need to focus on making them feel your excitement. A rehearsed flat response fails to trigger this response and it leads to boredom and skepticism. Now, there's a few ways that you can actually measure this kind of conviction. The first one is vocal energy. So high conviction speakers show empathy spikes like volume or intensity when discussing benefits. The second one is pace variation. So they naturally speed up during exciting parts and slow down for emphasis. And then a third one would be the emotional range, where you can actually use more emotional words and display a wider spectrum of feelings. Now, I'm not saying that you should be using this all the time, but sometimes acknowledging your imperfections like, sorry, my English is not that perfect, but I'm gonna try my best to help you out here, makes you more human, relatable, and trustworthy. Research shows that sometimes admitting small weaknesses and showing vulnerability actually increases your credibility and likability. Perfection oftentimes seems fake and imperfection seems real. Let's think of Roberto, Maria, and Ahmed. These closers leverage their imperfect English and accents as strengths. They own their background confidently, which makes them memorable and builds instant rapport. When you are real with prospects, they feel safe being real with you. This is what you want. They drop their guard and they start sharing actual concerns and collaborate with you instead of resisting you. Now, the main challenge here is, how do you actually develop a genuine conviction without sounding fake or rehearsed? The problem is that most closers play it safe and end up sounding flat and boring. Now, the key to make this happen is actually exaggerated practice. Now, what I mean here is that you should actually practice your sales pitch with double your intensity, your volume, and your emotional variation you would ever use on a real call. Now, what happens is that this builds your conviction muscle memory and expands your emotional range. The outcome of this is that when you've practiced at an extreme level, performing at a normal level, high conviction level feels natural and controlled. The key difference here is that you're not learning to fake passion, you're actually learning to amplify the genuine belief and passion you already feel but normally suppress due to fear. Now, the key to make this work is to actually perform different scenarios on different role plays at 200% intensity. You also want to make sure that you practice while doing physical activities like walking upstairs or standing with arms raised to automatically change your vocal energy and get you used to using this type of energy in different situations and stress levels. Now, the core idea here is that your conviction is not a feeling. It is a measurable, trackable, and improvable skill that you should be working on. Now, the three key metrics that you should be tracking is your vocal energy, your pace variation, and your emotional range. Now, for your vocal energy, you should be analyzing your recordings for volume and intensity patterns. So in this case, you should be asking yourself questions like, do I need to speed up or slow down more strategically? Or maybe, is my pace too monotonous and should I switch it up a little bit? And then finally, to keep track of your emotional range, you should actually count the use of emotional words and significant tone shifts on every single call. Now, I know that I've brought this up many times over on previous trainings, but you actually need to sit down and spend quite a bit of time listening to yourself on your recordings. And in this case, you need to listen to your calls and mark the exact moments where your conviction drops, often during objection handling or the pricing, because these will actually show you where you need to be focusing your improvement efforts. You will notice very soon that your conviction naturally increases as you collect more evidence, more success stories, and more client transformations that proves that your product works and your delivery also works. The thing here is that the evidence doesn't just give you things to say, but it fundamentally changes how you say those things. Now, in order for you to create this mindset shift, you need to prioritize emotional delivery over grammatical accuracy. So you need to stop monitoring your language so much and start focusing on your message and your belief in it. Now, this is sort of counterintuitive, but when you stop focusing on avoiding mistakes, your natural speaking rhythm emerges and your confidence increases, and your communication paradoxically actually becomes way more effective, even if minor errors actually increase. Now, remember that this improvement process will actually work in a spiral effect. So if you show up to a call with high conviction, this will result in higher prospect engagement, and this in result will get you better conversations, more information, better presentations, more closes, and even more conviction. So as you can see, this works in an endless spiral loop. Native speakers often rely on their language skills and fail to develop this genuine connection. As an international closer, you can actually use this for your own advantage and outperform them by bringing an authentic passion and energy that they can't match. Now remember that your accent is an advantage, your passion is your power, and your conviction is your competitive edge. The first person that you need to sell is yourself. You must completely believe in your own products. When you do, that conviction becomes unstoppable. I want you to feel the difference in your energy. Stop worrying about perfect grammar and start focusing on perfect belief.